Okay, so for the first part of this three-part mini-series, I wanted to go into the risk versus reward of outdoor recreation. I decided to interview my dad, my wife, and then myself, kind of going over why certain people decide to participate in risky activities. So let's just jump into the first interview with my father. Alright, so I want you to tell me about your incident with the horses in Brazil. I know you crashed and hurt yourself, but can you give me a little bit more details on that?
Yeah, I was riding a young 3-year-old horse that was not super calm early in the morning. A dog spooked the horse. He took off running, and he was wearing shoes. And when he hit the pavement, the last thing I remember is seeing the pavement coming toward my head. And then I woke up 20 minutes later, and there were two old ladies standing over me, screaming for help. And there was massive blood, and I thought my head had been crushed in because of the amount of blood. But later, when I fully came to, I had taken 32 stitches in the chin, and I had suffered a concussion and broke 4 bones in my arm and had to be medevaced back to the United States.
Tell me about your experience in Switzerland.
Yeah, so I was about 16, and I was mountain biking with my boss at a lunch break in the park near Geneva, and I just lost the front tire, went over the bars, broke my collarbone right here so bad that I had to get a plate put in. Then I also got 3 stitches put in behind my ear.
Obviously, there's a lot of risks in mountain biking. Why do you still do it?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of risks. The way I kind of view it as like a net positive. Like, every time I go out on a ride, I'm risking hurting myself or breaking my bike in an expensive way. But I feel that the benefits that I get from exercise and from mental clarity that come from mountain biking outweigh the risks. Yeah, so I think it's super interesting because I consider you a very risk-averse human being. Like, you always drive very carefully, you try to limit the amount of risk you put yourself under. Why do you continue to ride horses when it's such an inherently risky activity?
It's just a matter of looking at the odds, and I don't think it's not very smart, but I do really lower my risk when I'm doing these high-risk activities, so I feel like I'm not going to get hurt, and I also feel like any injury is probably not going to be serious enough that I could forego the fun of having the activity. Yeah, it's almost like running a car. You don't really think, oh, should I go to the grocery store because there is a chance I'll get in a wreck. You just do it because it's part of life. That's like riding horses for me. I do it all the time. I love it. It's part of what I do. So I don't think about the risk, but of course it's always there in the back. And it's the same with all the sports activities that I do. There's kind of a risk in the background, but it's not really something I'm thinking about while I'm laying in the hospital.
Okay, cool, thanks. So obviously there's a lot of risk involved in snowboarding, and I've personally seen you crash about 1 million times. Why do you enjoy participating in such a risky activity?
So, a lot goes wrong for me, but when I do finally get into the groove of like the edges and stuff, it just feels like I'm gliding down a mountain of mashed potatoes, and I love it.
Just like everything else worth doing, outdoor recreation is a certain element of risk. It's important to mitigate the risk as much as we can, but I suspect that for most of us, the pros of outdoor recreation far outweigh the cons.